Hello folks, and welcome back to another episode of the least optimized playthrough of Borderlands 2 ever, where we are covering the entirety of the main game, but certainly not a complete playthrough. There's going to be a lot of side quests and things that are left out, but we also pile on 2 full DLCs, Captain Scarlet and her Pirate's Booty, as well as Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, my 2 favorite DLCs from the game, and all 4 Headhunter packs. And in fact, where we are right now is a very sad state of affairs. We went to the first of the Headhunter packs, which is the Halloween one. I believe that was even the first one that was released. And I can't remember the name of it, but of course it is a Halloween themed. And it's kind of nifty, but we came in, it was asking us, we needed to be at level 15. All the bad guys are at level 15. As you can see, we're at number 11, and 11 is significantly less than 15. Maybe not in the real world, you know, $11 versus 50. Well, actually, no, if you're talking about an hourly wage, $11 and $15 is a big difference. And that's a pretty good comparison, I think. Think wage, hourly wage. The difference between $11 an hour and $15 an hour is a difference between level 11 and level 15. It's a huge gap. And so our play reflected that. We got wrecked. And even then, like, we weren't getting a lot of great XP from the kills we were making. It was we were having to fight tooth and nail for them. Look, fancy bit of driving here. Yeah, some of the best you're ever going to see driving in this game is me behind the wheel of these crazy thing. I'm kind of surprised, honestly, that the devs left the steering the way it is. I remember in the first game, that was kind of like everybody that I knew. Well, granted, there was only like 2 people that were still playing it or playing at the time that I knew of, but nobody liked driving those things. The controls are just a little bit weird. They're not horrible. They're not counterintuitive. They're just not. They're not as fun. It takes a little getting used to, and the way they, I mean, you can tell by the way that the wheels go. They don't turn like this. They turn like you kind of lean. It's not as tight as you'd like it. It's not like playing Need for Speed Most Wanted. That's my point. And I'm talking 2008, I think, or 2012, the very first Need for Speed Most Wanted. I think they've released 1 or 2 other versions since, but neither of them are anything close to the original as far as I'm concerned. I actually was going to do a playthrough of that. I have the first bit of it done, but I have a feeling that has less interest than this game does. But anyway, we're gonna play on just because, hey, we got it done. Oh, all right. I don't want to compliment my gameplay here, so I'm trying not to. I mean, getting a random headshot in these circumstances is really not that big of a deal. It is satisfying when you're playing, though. It's just not like, whoa, this is the coolest thing ever. And I think I missed him. Yeah, I did. Or I grazed him or something. It was enough to knock him down, but certainly not enough to kill him, and that's an embarrassing situation to be in. But yeah, so I think my plan at this point, for those who haven't seen the first 3 episodes, my plan at this point, I believe, sorry, for those who haven't seen the first 3 episodes, I am not playing right now. Ooh, magic. I am actually trying something a little bit new where I play it as seriously as I can, as focused as I can, and then later on I tack on the commentary like I'm doing now. In theory, that would make for better gameplay and better commentary, although I have realized, unfortunately, that a lot of what commentary boils down to, if you watch a lot of the folks who do it on YouTube, and I'm not trying to call anybody out or say this is bad, but a lot of the commentary ends up being onomatopoeia. It's nonverbal reactions to what's going on. Ooh, oh, I can't believe that. Okay, it's over here. All right, I'm going to try to go here. And it's stream of consciousness meets just random expletives and cries of dismay or triumph. But I mean, it's been working. I mean, that's been the norm for years. So, you know, you say, hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Oh, no, okay, that was beautiful. That was one of those fun shots. All skill too, meant to do it. Knew I was going to do it. But and for also those who haven't watched other versions, the reason why this is the least optimized, I'm using the Gunzerker, who probably should be mostly using shotguns and pistoles and, you know, submachine guns, pretty much everything except for a sniper rifle, really. But that is our destiny. That is our fate. We are using a sniper rifle. That's not even what I prefer to use all the time. Now, granted, if I'm playing Maya, yeah, I might lean towards that a little bit, or Mordecai from the first one. If you can get away from the fact that Bloodwing is like the worst support ever. Ooh, beautiful. Oh, lovely. Now that guy, it's a question. You see, I'm level 11, he's level 9. If you have a higher level Goliath, what I did right there was borderline stupid. Borderline in Borderlands, because obviously he beefs up, bulks up. If you can't kill him quick, he's gonna beef up and make your life miserable as he comes after you with relentless rage. I paused there for a minute because I had a thought and I was trying to reclaim it before I started talking again, and I failed. So I do apologize. Something very brilliant was percolating in my brain, and it is no longer there. It percolated its way out. Can you do that? Yeah, I think you can, right? Percolate is kind of just to boil or to simmer or to be kind of popping. I guess in theory you could percolate a thought out of your brain. I did, so I guess there's your proof positive. I think in the future I might put it down on one of these monitors because looking up it's good. I think for the camera, my eye line is relatively close. Okay, now I'm thinking. Now this is stream of consciousness, but it has nothing to do with the game. So we're gonna skip that dialogue. That's just me thinking out loud as I'm going through this. Brand new setup here. This will be the setup for the next month or two. Hopefully no longer than that. And I'm just learning the pros and cons and what I want to be doing. And I don't want to be looking up. There we go. Now see, I know I can take him out. I'm not doing a very good job of it at the moment. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's the same voice as Torg. And I'm pretty sure he's the voice, I think I said this before, he's the voice of Mr. Satan / Hercule in the American dub of Dragon Ball Z. For anybody else that's out there. Joe, I know you're out there. I don't know why I would expect you to be watching this, but if you are, I do know there are some folks out there who share my enjoyment or appreciation of Dragon Ball Z. Not so much lately. I think that's just part of growing up, is understanding that you're allowed to grow out of things that you used to like. And to a degree, I envy people who really liked, who like now, 20 years later, 30 years later, like what they liked when they were younger. I think it's kind of cool. I mean, you know it inside and out. You're comfortable with it. But very few things that I loved in my childhood have made it into my 40s. Star Wars was a big deal. And that crapped out in 1999. No correlation to Phantom Menace, but that was a bummer of a time. And but it was hard to let go because I had mistakenly adopted that as part of my identity. I was a Star Wars fan. And so it was something I was reluctant to give up on, even when I had lost interest, because that had become, in many ways, synonymous with who I was. Not legitimately. Like, now that I've bid it adieu and I let it go, and I'm none the worse for it. I haven't lost a part of myself. I don't feel bereft in any way, but at the time, my concern was, well, then what am I? Not what am I known for, because very few people aside from my close friends knew me as that. Like, people at work didn't know. Some of them did. Anytime it became relevant, like if we had like a trivia, like a Star Wars trivia night, it happened very rarely, but in the few times it did, and I was able to show off my prowess, people were just like, wow, you are the Star Wars guy. But, and then once the internet came around and you realize there are a ton of other people just like you who have the same love for it, general knowledge base, and it's like, okay, well, it's, if I step back, if I resign, there are other people to take my place and carry the torch for the original trilogy anyway.
Firehawk has harassed the Bloodshots for some time, but
I will say, I think it was a very strange choice. So Borderlands, the game design, they go cell shade, and then they go like, for lack of a better term, comic black lines. Like the lines you would see in most comic books. You've got those the black lines. So it's a very, very I wouldn't say cartoonish, but sorry, I was letting Flankstank finish his little rant there. So they go to this effort to make it not realistic. Like we're not. This isn't Call of Duty type thing where it's like super real. It looks very. I mean, not cartoony in a bad way, but just very cartoony. We'll just call it cartoony. And yet, they brought in live actors for Lilith and Angel. And I'm pretty sure Angel was in the first one, but I think the way it was digitized or the way they presented her was a little more abstract. If I remember correctly, maybe it was more focused on just her eyes. I can't remember. But even in the first one, I remember going, that's kind of weird. To go comparatively hyper real with the actors, and then bringing Lilith in. Okay, I understood. Okay, Angel is supposed to be a construct or a program, in theory. So I get why she is unique. She would look a little oddly realistic, why you'd actually see the actress, her face and everything, but not move her mouth. And I mean, I think that's fine. I think that was more of a practical thing. Like, hey, we can change her lines as needed. It's a lot easier to have a voice actor come in for a session and redo a couple lines than it is to reshoot the visual. So I think they just got some stock footage of her sitting there with a fan blowing her hair, and they were just able to use that for a lot of shots and then just have her do the voiceover. And I think I read an article. I think she's even played the game. I can't remember if she was a gamer to begin with or a fan of the game really, but I heard she played it and it was kind of trippy. I'm sure that's got to be kind of interesting to see yourself in a game with regularity. I mean, she does play a pretty significant role in this game, and then in Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep. So it's not like she was just kind of a one and done deal. But it makes me wonder, because I know from as an actor, like acting on a real state or for an actual production, you lose all the magic of what you may see in the movie. Like for the actors on Star Wars, it was not a magical time. It was not like, whoa, I've got, you got lightsabers and you got the Force, you got all this really cool stuff. Most of that's done in post. Most of it's done, using special effects after the fact. Like the lightsabers were, I believe the first ones were very fragile. I mean, it was the handle and then, a thin rod. I think they beefed up the rod and or made it out of something different because they couldn't actually hit. Like they couldn't have full contact with it because they would break. But I think they changed that either for Star Wars or the next one, Empire. But so lightsabers didn't exist on set. They were just sticks, and there's no music playing, and a lot of times the dialogue, like you're on set, you can't hear. I mean, you can hear what's being said, but the audio needs to be cleaned up. I mean, mics are really good. You get a shotgun mic relatively close or pointed in the right direction, and even if there's ambient noise, they can really focus in. So as I've had it before, whereas the sound guy wearing the headphones and everything, I could hear the people talking between themselves much better than even my boss at the time, who was pretty much following alongside just out of frame. They were laved up. They had lav mics on, and I don't know why I felt I had to explain that. And there was just so much ambient noise, but lav mics are really good. They are omnidirectional, but if they're close enough, they're really only going to pick up mostly what's here. They're not picking up a ton of ambient. At least these weren't. We walked through a factory type situation, had a lot of loud noises, and my boss couldn't hear anything. He was just kind of pointing his ears and shrugging. I'm like, I can hear it just fine. So you could still hear, and I mean, obviously you want completely clean audio in a film. If you can't get it on set, you have to do ADR typically, which really sucks. That's just, I can't imagine having to do that for a significant part of a project. I had to do it with one project, and it worked out okay. But I mean, my friend had all the toys. He had the software that would give you a countdown, and it would just play it on loop. So I could just over and over and over until I could get the line down exactly right. But if you don't have that, you're having to reset every time, and I can't imagine. Obviously, Hollywood, they can do it with all the bells and whistles. But even then, you have to not only match the tempo perfectly of your performance there. So your the lips match what you're saying, but you've got to try to conjure up the emotions that you felt at that time without the actor. Like, I mean, I think it might help because you're actually able to see, like, you're getting a bird's eye view. You're actually seeing, like, from outside what the scene looks like. So I think well, I wonder, is it actually easier to conjure up emotion when you're seeing you and the person you're talking to versus when you're doing it live? You're just looking at their reaction. But if you can kind of get a feel for what the scene looks like with whether it's the wind blowing or the sunset, there's a feeling that gets evoked in theory by the cinematography itself, even if it's just a rough cut and it's not color graded or anything. You can get maybe a better perspective. You're not worried about your lines or anything. You're able to just kind of focus on what's going on, and so it actually might be easier to produce those emotions at the time. But I feel like, and coming from a theatrical background, it's more of being in the moment, and it can be very difficult to get yourself back in that moment, especially when you don't have the energy of the other person to play off of. I don't think they do ADR sessions with both people there or more than one person. I think it's one at a time, like most voiceovers for animations and stuff. Like, very rarely. I shouldn't say very rarely. I don't know how rare it is, but from what I understand, it is common practice to not have. Oh, holy cow! Sorry, I just looked at the runtime on this. This is a long episode. Oh, goodness gracious! So yeah, I kind of screwed up a little bit in my. I think I said they were going to be an hour long, so this one is double that. I was wondering. I was like, man, we're 17 minutes into it. It doesn't look like that. Oh my gosh, we've got. All right, well, this is going to be a long one, folks. Strap yourselves in. Sorry, I didn't even pay attention. I'm just kind of winging it here. I had some free time, a little bit of extra energy, and I figured I might as well go ahead and get this done. But anyway, so yeah, that's kind of stuff I talk about. But yeah, I think it's common practice to call in the actors individually, and I'm not sure why exactly, other than maybe, I don't know, like noise bleed. Like if you have, I mean, that wouldn't make sense either. But I mean, it is a thing. If the people are too close together, sometimes you can get the other person. If you have to talk over them, if it's one after the other, it's fine. But if it's you're talking and then they kind of cut you off or something, you can have their audio bleeding to yours. But for a voiceover, I think they would just keep it clean. But I think like The Simpsons, I think they have some of the cast come in together. But in general, I think a lot of the times the voice actors never cross paths and never see each other. Maybe if they have like their sessions are one right after the other, that might be a thing. But in general, it's an isolated affair. And I think it could just be the use of time, because if on a movie set, if the person isn't there, you're going to notice it because it's a visual medium. That sounds really dumb to say, but like you need the other actor there for the reaction shots or for the reverse angle. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes they bring a stand-in. If you look really closely, sometimes you can tell this is not so-and-so, the back of so-and-so's head. It's somebody else that was actually standing. But they do a good enough job casting lookalikes. It's really hard to notice unless you know to look for it. So sometimes they do that. But on the whole, especially for the sake of the other, whoever else is, who's doing the other side of the conversation, you kind of want that person there if you can. But, actors are actors. And but when it comes to voice acting, there's a lot of refinement, or can be, where they're really focusing, because all you have is your voice, so everything has to come through that. You're not going to get anything from the expression. You get no visual help. So I think there's a lot more direction, a lot more time taken on each line. Could be, and maybe not. And y'all can let me know if we got any actual voice actors out there. But my understanding is that there's a lot more refinement done, a lot more takes to try to get the line just right. And if you had another actor standing there, they would be bored out of their mind. So I think it's bring the actor in. See, it's just, like I said, from a production standpoint, I think it absolutely makes sense to have her not talking or have her mouth not moving. But from every other sense, like, I don't understand why her, because she's not so digitized that you can't see her mouth. You can clearly see her mouth is there. It's very defined, and she's very clearly not talking. But I guess the idea is she's communicating telepathically or through the echo device, so her mouth isn't actually moving. I mean, I think it's easy enough to justify it in the story, why that mechanic is that way. But I would venture to guess the main reason is outside of the lore. It's outside of the story. It's more about making the production more manageable. And I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe that was just an absolutely creative choice. And they're like, oh, and it actually works out well. We don't have to worry about, changing lip sync. Because it is, voice actors at this level, a lot of times they're getting paid by the line. So it's probably still cheaper than an actual new session with green screen and reshooting everything. But it's still expensive to get an actor to do more lines. Which you wouldn't think, because, I mean, there was, what was it? The Bayonetta actress? She wasn't the only one, but around that situation, there were a lot of people saying, oh, voice actors don't make enough, or they don't make anything near what actors do. They should be getting paid more, and whatever. And there was more to the story than that for anybody who was paying attention. But the bottom line is, I mean, compared to what actors do go through, especially on remote locations. I mean, you've got travel. See, this is interesting. I totally forgot about this. We're actually, you see the skull next to the. There's Lilith's entrance there. Entrance. I don't know why my mouth is lazy today.
Sup?
What's up, Lilith? What's going on, girl? Akka the Firehawk. Okay, well, I had a great showing, and she's down now.
Name's Lilith. I'm with the Raiders, like you. I keep the bandits in line so Roland can focus on taking down Jack. Anyway, long story, lots of internal bleeding. Could you help me?
Yeah, I imagine. I don't know if the other, if the third Borderland goes into it, but I mean, usually, like Lilith, all her stuff is based off. Oh, not all her stuff, but a lot of the cool stuff she does here is based off Iridium, and that's what we're actually going to be getting for. And usually there's some side effects. Something like Iridium, it's purple, it's oozing, it's glowing. Typically, you think there's going to be some side effects. They don't really explore that in this game. I think. Well, no, I have no clue if they explore it in the next game. Don't really much care. But it is interesting. Usually there is a drawback, but apparently over here it's just she gets. And she's not really addicted to it. She just
that's the stuff. Give it here.
burns through it.
Appreciate it.
And she's not snorting it. She's not smoking it. She just kind of absorbs it via osmosis, I guess. Something like that.
Thanks. Bet you're looking for Roland, huh? He's not here.
There we go.
The bloodshot.
It's always awkward when the characters don't follow you, where their eyes don't follow you. They just keep talking straight as if, hey, you come in and stand in front of me. Don't make me turn my head.
Now the real fun begins. I'll see if I can't phase blast a few of them for you.
Lilith, you made me forget what I was saying. It's probably not terribly. Oh, yeah, I'm a level 11, and these guys. Okay, those are 9. Oh, I think it was just the big one. Not the super psycho, the badass psycho. I think was a level 14. And maybe they level up. I can't remember. I don't really pay attention to that kind of stuff when I'm playing. I'm just shooting stuff. I'm a very simple man when it comes to gaming. I think I mentioned it in one of the earlier episodes. There are going to be times where, oh, yep, okay, no, that's a 10, level 10. All right. Well, we saw it. There was a skull on the thingy blooper, on the life meter. Now here we are. Now we're using Berserker as it kind of was meant to be. Anytime I know that I'm going to be fighting through a swath of enemies, I typically take off the sniper rifle. That's just insta-death right there. It's just being stupid. We haven't got our fastball grenade yet, so we're still using the crap that we pick up here and there. I'm guessing it's going to be next episode we actually get to pick up the bee. But we are about to be level 12. I could have sworn we picked it up at level 12. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We got plenty of time. Plenty of time to see what develops. But what I'm saying with the voice acting, I mean, it is the amount of work. I mean, I'm not saying it's not exhausting. Like anytime you have to conjure up emotion, I think, and who was it? The guy I think who played Goku, like he lost his voice several times, or had actually damaged his voice just from all the yelling and you know. So there's a lot of energy, a lot of passion. It's not an easy thing to do per se, but I've worked in lumber yards, I've worked in warehouses. Those are not easy to do either. Just because it is physically exhausting, physically draining, doesn't mean more money. And I think you can get away with, is that right? I'm musing aloud. I'm thinking you can get away with less than stellar voice acting, better than you can get away with bad physical acting, because I mean, yeah, I think I believe I'm going to stand by that. Again, I'm not saying it's easier, but I think it's more obvious if somebody is crap as an actor, based on their mannerisms, based on their eyes, based on, like, you can just look at somebody's face and just tell that they're not dialed in. You know, they're not that character. They're just saying it. But if you just hear them say the line, especially if you pair it with like animation, I think you can. They may not be the most expressive, but I think they can be serviceable. Whereas if you actually see them, it's like, oh gosh. And I'm not saying you can't notice it at all. I just think there's a little more forgiveness in that. But in any case, the bottom line is I'm not diminishing what voice actors do or the work or the level of talent that is needed.
Yeah.
But it is less demanding in many ways than physical acting.
No idea why.
Even though, I mean, I remember being on set. It was like you can walk fast, but if you run, kneel, or jump, they needed to bring in a stuntman, or you had to get stunt pay for it because those were considered risky endeavors. To be fair, they are. I mean, you can twist your ankle very easily. Well, not very easily, but doing any one of those things, you can get some kind of injury or malady, or say you did. So I guess it's more of a CYA thing, I think. But that my point there being, actors aren't necessarily the roles aren't hyper physical. But I mean, you see Lord of the Rings, especially when you see like actors that are in rough environments. A lot of that you're not faking it. You know, sometimes the snow is fake. Like not blew my mind, but it was a pleasant surprise when I was watching a making of the Band of Brothers, the Bastogne episode, where it's the wintertime and they're in those foxholes and everything. There wasn't a moment where I watched that whole thing where I wasn't thinking, oh my gosh, those guys are so cold. That just looks so cold. And it's all fake. It's all makeup and fake snow and what have you. And I'm not saying that I believed it was real snow, but I didn't question it. It didn't take me out of the immersion. And same thing with Lord of the Rings. Now I believe they were actually in the real snow most of the time, but like when they're buried in it, I don't know that was real snow. It didn't, the way it was clinging to them, I think that was special effects, makeup, what have you. But I know there was a day where they were actually out in the freaking snow and it was cold. And so those are just some of the perils and some of the things that voice acting doesn't really have to mess with. And I made the argument as well, I just throw in a random name out there, Brad Pitt, back in the day, Angelina Jolie. Like, do you have actors that people will go see a movie just because the actor is in it? Because they have name recognition. And because you are getting their voice, you're getting their person, their physicality to it. They're bringing a lot to the table. Whereas with voice acting, I think it's rare, if ever, that somebody's going to say, especially when it comes to something like this, a video game. I think it's very rare that anybody's going to say, "Oh, I don't care if the game is good or bad. I'm just in it to hear this voice actor." And I'm not saying that they're not. I don't want to say iconic, but they're not recognizable. Like you would know, be like, hey, wait a minute, why is it a different voice actor for this game than it was for the last one? And it can be jarring to switch up voice actors, but I don't think it's detrimental. I think if the gameplay is good, I think if the story is still good, people aren't really going to care too much. on GP maybe, if they're saying, oh, I think this, I didn't like the reason why this actor is not involved in this project, and so therefore I don't like this project or whatever, or I'm not going to buy it. But I think for the most part, people are like, okay, well, I'm in it because you're not there. The performance is an augmentation. It's something to add to the game. It's not necessary. I mean, you go back to the original gaming, you could barely call it sound what some of the earlier games had. And then you develop, again, a very rudimentary soundtrack, and eventually, way down the line, I guess in Nintendo, Nintendo, I'm thinking of like Punch-Out. You had basic stuff, but it certainly wasn't considered voice acting. It wasn't until, I'm thinking like Mortal Kombat, like Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis era, where you started having some more discernible, distinct voice lines, and you could actually recognize voices, and they actually kind of helped. They fleshed out the characters a little bit more. It was at that point, which is 12 years, I think, 11, 12, 13 years since, Atari was before that, but Nintendo came out in 85, so, okay, 6 or 7 years after Nintendo with its the silly stuff. They were trying. My point is, you had some amazing games, and Zelda, before, I'm trying to think, they don't even have voiceovers in Ocarina of Time, do they? Because I know they don't in the Super Nintendo. Ocarina, they got that, listen, like there's snippets of voiceover, but it's mostly like, if the character starts talking, it goes, oh, and then you read the text, or oh, and read the text. Point is, there are a lot of games, a lot of well-received good games that have no voice acting whatsoever. So to say it's crucial to a game is, I think, a bit of an exaggeration. But you could argue that once you have characters in there, once you've established that characters will be talking, that it's important to have the right voice actor involved. Like, if you want to say, like in Zelda, they say, okay, we're not going to have voice acting. Well, then you just get used to the fact that it's not there. But if you're going to have it, it needs to be good. Otherwise, it can be distracting or have the opposite effect. So I do get that. But I still don't think it can... Personally, I haven't had a game ruined by bad voice acting. And do we get him? I think we do. Yes, we do. Okay, good. I thought we had a little more suspense on that. I thought it was going to take a little bit longer to get that kill, but I'm just too gosh darn efficient, I apologize for my amazingness. And my humility. Gosh, my humility. Anyway, just musing about the voice acting, but I personally think what voice actors get paid is fair. I think if you're making, $20 an hour, $30. I'm not saying that's what they get paid. In most cases, I assume they're getting paid more than that. But $20, $25 an hour, $30 an hour, I think for that kind of work is fine. The only reason why you could justify saying more is because it is contractor work. It is job based. You're not making $30 an hour, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks out of the year or whatever. You're probably getting, there's fewer opportunities, fewer projects, fewer glamorous projects. And that was one of my points. People are like, well, they can't work all year round. It's like, a lot of them can. They choose not to. It's like, I want to work on video games or animation. And it's like, well, yeah, you're gonna have a harder time stitching together a bunch of unless you're one of the top 10 circulating people. It is going to be harder to stay working all year round. But that's not the responsibility of the studio, because there are a lot of commercials. There are what are they called? Or for companies, industrial projects. They're not glamorous, and they don't pay as well, but they still pay pretty well. And I think there's a lot of voice actors that are making a good, and in fact, I actually know one of them. Rachel West, I believe is her name. She was actually one of my first shorts that I did. great gal, fantastic, great work ethic. She worked out of her house before working out of her house was a thing. And she just did what she needed. She was never, at least when I talked to her, when I got her on my project, she wasn't in any major productions, video game or movies, but she had more than enough work. Like, she made a very good living doing less glamorous type stuff. Hopefully she's had a breakthrough at some point, but maybe she doesn't even want it. There's some people that they're just like, hey, I'm happy to do 1 or 2, maybe 3 projects a week. You know, maybe $1,000, $1,200, $1,300. I'm not saying that's what she made. I'm just saying, like, you do that for 4 weeks out of the month, and that's a nice paycheck. You can live off of that. And that's not the measure of it, but I mean, really, it is market demand. It's like, okay, can we replace you? How easy is it to replace you without it impacting our bottom line? And on a movie, impossible. Like, if you get through 3/4 of the movie with your lead actor and something happens, I mean, that's hell. That's like a worst case scenario. Now you're talking about extensive reshoots, and depending on whether it was shot in green screen, in studio, on location, may not even be feasible. Whereas voice acting, you just call them back in the studio, or you just get somebody new in there. And yeah, I mean, it could be, you know, some long days, long nights, but you can get it done in a pinch if you need to. It is, in that regard, it is replaceable. Not ideally, but it is possible. Whereas I don't know. I'm trying to think if I know there have been times like Back to the Future, the guy who was originally cast, I think they shot like 3 or 4 scenes with him before he got replaced. So I know it's happened where there's been recasting early on, but not all the way through a project, unless, again, they weren't a major role. So maybe they had 2 or 3 scenes and they were isolated from the other ones, and they were like, it was like one location. You could pull that off. You just go to that one location with the new actor, maybe 1 or 2 other actors that you have to bring back. And provided they aren't growing mustaches or doing other crazy things that make it impossible to retain consistency or continuity, you can pull that off. Anyway, I mean, I haven't experienced all of that, but I've tasted, or I've at least gone through enough of the process to go, oh yeah, that would be really bad to lose somebody there. And okay, well, I can see how that wouldn't be as devastating if you don't have to worry about reshoots. But like I said, it all comes down to market and how much value you bring versus how much it costs and how important you are to the project. I mean, I did group and electric work for about 1.5 years, 2 years, and arguably, depending on certain projects, I was just about as indispensable as the actor. Obviously, I'm not in front of the camera, but if we're out remote somewhere and there's only 2 of us and we're on a tight schedule, if somebody goes down with an injury, now we had a very active producer, and our DP was also a very active hands-on guy. So I think in our situation, but we also weren't union. So in our situation, if I had an injury while working, they could have compensated for it because we had 2 other people that were not like, oh, I'm a producer, I won't lift a finger, or I'm a DP, I'm not gonna set my own lights. They would have made it happen. But on a set where the roles are more defined, I mean, I'm guessing the trade-off is on those level productions, you've got more than enough people. So if you lose 1 or 2, maybe you're still all right. But in general, there are certain circumstances wherein losing somebody who's under the line, over the line people are your director and your actor, and your lead actors and everything. But there are a lot of people that are considered less important or less significant, whose absence could really torpedo a project. It really is a team effort. But true to what I was just saying, the market would dictate that it's easier to replace somebody like me, somebody who's just doing grunt work, just putting up lights or what have you, just going where they need to go, versus losing a director or somebody else. Oh, this is our first time meeting Ellie, isn't it? Wasn't a big fan of Ellie. She was alright. And she is actually, I don't think we've gotten to see her yet, but crazy enough, she is Mad Moxie's daughter. And that's actually Mad Moxie's son. Scooter and Ellie are brother and sister. Didn't really see that coming, to be honest. When you see Mad Mox, you'll understand what I'm saying. Like, just absolutely no. But I think they talk. Well, they do talk about it in this game, but we don't do the side quest. There's a Hodunk and Stratford. I can't remember their names, but it's an Irish clan. It's like, you know, hillbilly versus Irish clans, and that's when you find out more of Moxie's backstory. She used to be a Hodunk, used to be a hillbilly type person, and her husband was a Hodunk, and I think that's how you end up with Ellie and Scooter, who both have that kind of the Hodunk accent and kind of approach to life and whatnot and what have yous. It was an interesting choice. I don't mind it at all. I mean, there's definitely some offbeat moments and narratives in Borderlands that I can appreciate, even if they weren't direction I would go. I'm like, oh, it mixes things up, makes it interesting. I wouldn't have thought to put it that way, but it's far enough off to be fresh, but not so far off that it's off-putting. But then there are definitely some things in Borderlands that I do find off-putting personally. But they're nothing is really ever focused in on this game too much. Like, you know, you may have a side character or a side quest that you're like, yeah, this is kind of, or I really feel like a turd muffin. I know I'm a mercenary for hire. I know my character may be the scum of the earth, but as, you know, as a player, I'm not a big fan of this quest. I don't like, because I think that's one of the reasons why I don't play the Hodunk thing, is you're actually trying to get them to fight each other. Like, you're trying to instigate a war between them, and it just feels bad. You know, it's just not my thing. Like, I want to get my money, I want to get my loot, I want to get my cool guns, and I'll shoot you if you're shooting at me, or if you're a crab or a spider crab or whatever. But I don't want to just like start causing trouble and get people to kill each other. Granted, neither side really makes themselves incredibly appealing or endearing. There's nobody really like, oh, it's my best friend. It's like, okay, you're kind of a turd muffin, and okay, you're a turd muffin with a different accent. That's okay. But I'm not a big fan of the dust, and they use the music from this, reuse the overworld music in Captain Scarlet and her pirate's booty. You probably can't hear it too well just because I'm talking over it. But they do use some of the music from this, and it's kind of the same landscape. This is, I think I mentioned it before, this is the most Borderlands 1 that I think this game gets. Well, aside from the fact that you actually visit Firestone, which is the original town that you start off in Borderlands 1. But even then, it's got iridium flowing through it. It's got enough to make it feel like it's not straight out of Borderlands 1. This feels very Borderlands 1. With the wind turbines and just the sand, tufts of grass here and there, rock formations. Very, very similar. Now the great thing is, I mentioned the Bee Shield. I guess we could talk about the Bee Shield. Well, I mean, hopefully you're gonna, I don't know. Hopefully you see it this episode. We'll just have to wait and see. Hold your breath in suspense, or you skip ahead. Cheater! Don't do that. I'm not doing it. You can't do it either. I had actually thought about when the Bee comes in, actually doing like a dialogue. So it is like kind of like me and the Bee playing. So me and the Bee would be commenting. But folks, that's a logistical nightmare. Like for an hour-long video, that would probably be... Well, I'd have to watch it to find places where, you know, the Bee would make comments, where I would essentially have to script it out, which is not the end of the world, but for an hour-long deal, that would be crazy. And at that point, then your expectations are higher. Like if I say something smart or witty, it's kind of just... it's a bonus in this kind of playthrough. But if I were to actually script it out, then you're expecting you know, expecting jokes, set up, punchlines, things like that. And it would just be, I think the cost to benefit, the risk versus reward is just skewed far too heavily into the risk or the con versus the pro.
Now you can strut one of those bandit-looking things from any of my brother's catch rides. Come back and see me sometime, you son.
And then you're trying to time, like where I'd be reading, looking at the script, and I'd be waiting for.
Customers on fire. I can take care of myself.
Oh yeah, take care of myself. What was I saying? Yeah, it was just going to be a lot. Now, truth be told, I don't mean to go into this kind of thing, but like, you know, these were like 50,000 view videos, 100,000 view, like, and people were actually like cared. And I mean, I'm not saying people don't. I know there's at least 80 out there, 8 of you out there that are watching this, perhaps. And if you got this far into it, I thank you for that. Seriously, that's that. Man, 46 minutes. I appreciate you running in. I don't expect that to be the case, though. I don't think many people, even the 8 views that I get, I don't think people hung around all that often or hung around all that late. I just noticed that shotgun kind of has some paint on it. You can see I'm not hyper observant. I mean, not when I'm playing. Like, I totally forgot that. I look at the stats of the guns. I don't really look at the paint that much. But you think pretty much that's all that your character is. Like, I'm part of a hand and a gun. That's it. You'd think I'd pay more attention, or I'd see the gun better, but I don't. Which is what makes my desperation to unlock all the camos in Call of Duty. You know, get the the gold camo where you have to do a crazy amount of kill quests and everything to get that. It's like, well, I'm barely ever looking at the gun half the time anyway. And all it really does is tip people off. Okay, this guy's put in hours. Doesn't mean he's good, but he's put in the hours. He's grinded enough where he's got a gold gun or gold camo for this gun. And they may be more on their guard. It's better to be a sleeper in that regard. Yeah, I'm glad I did this video now, because I was planning on doing it tomorrow, but I wasn't expecting a 2-hour video. Good old flank steak. I do like a lot of the names in these games. I feel like I'm missing something. You'll see in a minute once we get inside. There's going to be a guy that jumps out. I feel like I'm missing a joke or a reference in it. I could probably Wikipedia it or Borderlandpedia, whatever you call it. I could look it up, but you know what? Actually, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that because I have the. Oh, there we go. I have the ability to do so. Let's go ahead and check it out real quick. Another one of the perks of doing this not live, you can still be observing and witnessing all the great action while I do a little dorky research here. So you might hear a little click-clacking of the keys. I do apologize for that. Okay, let's see if there's anything in here that tells me something I didn't know before. Trivia. Yeah, no, I don't see anything. We got an intruder! Get him, Bad Maw! That's what I was talking about. So Bad Maw. Maw is another name for mouth, if I'm not mistaken. But, as we can clearly see, we cannot see his mouth. So I'm not entirely sure if there's a joke or something in that, but it's gone right over my head. And there's nothing here. It just says that he's a nomad torturer, which we know. Let's see. It talks about strategy, and it talks about that. It gives the name of the midgets, which are in. I don't know where you find this out, but Apparently, they are Hubert, Dubert, and Lubert, which anybody who watched DuckTales knows that that's kind of takeoff of Huey, Dewey, and Louie, which I would not be surprised with, because as I think I mentioned, there is a Ninja Turtles reference. There's a ton of Easter egg or references in these games, so I would not be surprised. The crazy thing is, though, they don't, as far as I can tell, they don't mention it in the game. Maybe if you target them individually, you can see the names, and I just never paid attention. Big surprise there. But yeah, Bad Ma, I always just assumed there was some like Mad Max illusion, or it's a takeoff of Bad Jaw, who was a killer in whatever post-apocalyptic movie. See, no, it just says Bad Ma. It doesn't. We're not getting any names. So I guess that's just lore. That's just something the developers maybe said, because I don't see a way or anything that tells you what they're called. He's given me a bit more difficulty than I remembered. It's kind of embarrassing. Now he is 2 levels above us. He doesn't have the skull though, so it's not saying he's super dangerous. It's just, I think I'm just using a crap gun. And this is probably one of the first times where I changed the strategy that I'm using doesn't really work, and I have to change it up. I think I die again here. I'm definitely fighting for my life, and I don't think I kill him this time. Yep. And when I do that, that is the closest thing to rage quitting you do in this game. If I don't even try to get my second win, that's just me going, okay, screw it, I'm done. And I don't actually quit, so it's a misnomer perhaps to say it's rage quitting, but it is me going. I'm probably mumbling some profanity under my breath. Nope, you're right. Bad Ma is a dick. Yes, I will wholeheartedly agree with that. At least I certainly would have been feeling that way as I played. And it wasn't something I expected. Bad Ma rarely costs me a life, and I think so far we're on 2. So I think here's where I actually change it up somehow, maybe, or I just the midgets aren't there. Interesting. I mean, very colorful language coming from Bad Ma. Maybe that's, well, and that was the thing. If he actually was the only one who used that kind of language, then I'd say, okay, that's Bad Ma, bad mouth. It's his way of expressing himself that makes him Bad Ma. But all the tormentors talk like that. All the nomads talk like that. Yeah, well, I am a chicken. If you didn't hear, he said you were nothing, so I'm actually doing a little trash talk retroactively. Yeah, I think we're doing really well, and it's always embarrassing if you change up the strategy or you do something different, and well, okay, I was gonna say you barely get touched. We were pretty much untouched. We have health regen going. I think that's one of the perks we picked up on the tree. Is minor health regeneration, because I don't think we've got a health regeneration shield or character mod class. I can't remember. Oh my goodness gracious. Don't take that as a sign that I'm bored. All right, yep, there we go. See, but it wasn't like we had to, we got the final kill, at the last minute with almost no health or something. It wasn't a big dramatic finish. We polished him off pretty easily. I just wasn't doing it right. That drawbridge will kill you. I have stood under it just to see, or I can't remember if I did it on purpose or if I just happened to be standing under there. I think when I was playing with some friends and I was like, come on guys, let's go. Oh, why did I the thing. This also, oh, there's the Uncom Terror. Oh, I love that gun.
You're in? Great.
You're in?
Should be around here somewhere.
What does that have to do with anything, Lilith? Dad joke, but I'm not a dad, so it's just a bad joke. Which is also kind of another joke. It's also bad. Sorry. I do remember playing this. This playthrough is actually on PC. It's through Steam. But when I got it earlier on and I was playing it on my PC didn't have the juice, and this level killed it. Frame rates dropped like crazy because it's got this vortex going. I think pretty much the whole time you're in that area, and oh gosh, it's just a very taxing visual. and my little computer couldn't handle it very well. If you're hearing any noises that aren't from the game, it's enhanced, real-world enhancement. Where I'm at right now for the next 2 months is not a designated studio space. It's actually one of the living rooms in the house that we're renting. So there is an echo. Hopefully I'll be able to fix that in post sufficiently. Or using AI. I know people are down on a lot of different aspects of AI, but I will say the voice, I can't remember what it's called. It's AI something. Maybe AI voice, but it is essentially AI audio. As long as you have decent audio, like, you know, I've got the microphone close enough that it's legible, easily heard, and clear enough. The AI can take out the echo. It can take out background noise, most of it. Really just clean it up in a way that you would have to do a lot of work. And even then, after hours of it, or a lot of fiddling with equalizer and that kind of stuff, you might not even clean it up as well as the AI does. It's one of the things. I mean, but at the same time, that totally sucks for people. I mean, I've developed some skill with audio fixing, but I'm not an expert by any stretch. I know a few things to clean it up. But imagine people that have made a living, or, you know, spent all that time learning how to do some, you know, how to make mediocre audio sound great, or at least usable. And now all you do is right click on it and tell the AI to do its thing, and a lot of the time it can produce amazing results.
Those bloodshots will be dead in no time.
That was something else too that I thought of with AI. Well, I don't know where that was a non sequitur. Actually, I tried to make it a sequitur, but it was definitely not. But the idea, and it started with the Industrial Revolution, or around that time, where we started saying, okay, manual labor. If we can use machines instead of humans, in theory, it frees up humanity to live a better life, and to find better things to do at this time. The fact of the matter, though, is there are people who I wouldn't say their skill set, but their kind of what they want out of life is just kind of a basic job. Like, I can understand using machines or you know, technology to make the jobs like safer or more efficient. But when we take humans out of it altogether, or relegate it to, you know, unskilled positions, one, they are automatically less valuable. Like, there's going to be less, inherently there's going to be less effort spent on trying to make it safer, because, like, well, they're replaceable. I mean, obviously you can get lawsuits, and I'm not saying I advocate this, but once you're at that point, you can kind of, it's like, all right, you know, the workforce doesn't have to be skilled. It doesn't have to be happy necessarily. It just needs to be able to put the widget in the screw shaft and send it down the line. But you know, you can say, oh well, nobody wants to clean the bathroom, which, let's be fair, right now AI is not cleaning bathrooms. But there are people. I mean, there's a part of me that gets satisfaction just out of doing menial labor sometimes. You know, if it paid well enough, I might clean houses. You know, if there's a time where, like, I do get a little bored with my jobs. Like, I've had a lot of different jobs, and the longest I've ever been somewhere is like 3.5 years. And one of them, I was driving a truck, and one of them was doing video editing. But neither one of those were things that I was looking for as a career. They just were jobs that I liked well enough that I didn't get tired of them for a long time. And honestly, the driving job, I probably wouldn't have left when I did if the housing crash. It was back in 2008 when the housing market crashed, and a lot of the stuff we were delivering was building products for houses and housing packages and things. So when that went down, as a driver, I had nothing to do. I could organize a warehouse, but once it's organized and you've dusted the shelves, that's like the worst. Dusting the shelves in a warehouse, that is bottom of the barrel, like, okay, there's literally nothing for me to do. I am cleaning dust off of a warehouse shelf. Like, ugh. Anywho, so I might have been able to stick with that job for a little bit longer. The pay wasn't amazing, but I liked the job. I liked the nature of it, just driving around and loading and unloading. It was fine for me where I was at in my life. And the recent job that I had as an editor, that probably could have gone on longer. But the nature of it, I began to realize one thing I learned is when it comes to a job like editing, acting, anything that has a level of artisticness to it, or has an artistic bent to it, you can only do it for so long for something that you really have no passion for or really couldn't care less about, and before you just burn out. And it's not that you have to love every minute of it or love everything, but you have to, if you're going to pour creative energy into something, you need to get something back. There needs to be a sense of satisfaction. And after 3 years of kind of doing the same videos over and over, the same kind of content, the same scripts, or very similar scripts, it just got too tedious. And even then, that wasn't enough to prompt me to leave, because it was still paid well. The company, takes care of its employees. But fortunately, I would say, because I did need to move on. Once it gets to that point, where you're at the level where you can phone it in and you have no desire to do anything but phone it in, you need to move on. But for me, I need to do it for their sake and for mine. And fortunately, I got a little help, a little incentive because of, let's call it a situation that prompted me to move on. Without that, I might have gone on for another, well, ultimately the move would have taken me out of it. So at most, I would have done it for another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 months. So about, a little over half a year versus when I actually quit. So it wasn't like I had a whole lot of time left, regardless of how things went down. But I probably should have actually quit 6 months earlier. Before I did, I should have quit at the start of the new year when I really realized I'm like, this isn't working for me anymore. From a substantive level, from a satisfaction or satisfaction level. The more the job demands of you, the harder it is to feel satisfied by the job. And so, like, when I went back to driving a truck after that because I wanted to get away from a desk, and I got the best shape I'd been in a long time after that. Unfortunately, I'm back to being very out of shape right now, but that was what I wanted. I wanted to get in shape. I wanted a job that was going to keep me on my toes, keep me moving, get me away from the computer, and from a largely, I want to say domesticated, but that's not right. What's the word I'm looking for? Excuse me. A largely not dormitory, dormant. There we go. I knew I was going to get there eventually. A dormant lifestyle. And I did all of that. It just, unfortunately, it was overnight, and there were compounding variables that got involved. Just from a driving standpoint, fantastic. But then I took on a lead position, and things got a little poopy after that. But I think it would have been better for me to have gotten that job 6 months earlier and done it for a little bit longer than it was for me to stay at the old job for those extra 6 months. But it's hard when you're comfortable. I mean, it was a hybrid, but gradually we were doing more and more location shoots. But for a long time, it was 85, 90% remote and then 10% go in. So I was comfortable. Pay was good. The benefits were great. Most of the interactions I had were very professional and respectful, and manageable. There were definitely exceptions. Doink. I hit his... It's not a clavicle, right? This isn't a clavicle. This is a trapezoidal? I'm horrible with anatomy. I didn't shoot him in the head. That's what I'm trying to say.
We know Hyperion wants it open.
Come on, that was pretty funny. No, I'll get you all. Oh, there you go. Satan's Suckhole. That's what this place is called. And boy, did it suck the resources out of my computer. I did not realize. I don't think I ever read that they actually call it Satan. Like, I didn't think Satan existed in Borderlands. Or the concept of Satan, I should say. Obviously, we don't really see anything from the character, but that's interesting. All right, so we're roughly halfway through the video here. I don't know if that's considered tacky. No, I was going to say it may be considered tacky because I've never heard anybody else say that. But to be fair, nobody else, or very few people. Actually, no, I don't think anybody else has done pre-recorded playthroughs. I mean, it's not the most time efficient. Like, if I was doing this at the same time, it's a 2-hour one and done. I do a quick edit, beginning end points, and crank it out. This is 2 hours of playtime plus 2 hours of me watching and absorbing. And that's why, again, like I torpedoed the idea of bringing the Bee in as a character. It was going to be one of those. It was going to be something like where it was mocking me the whole time, or saying I was carrying the team. But one, I didn't really have a good voice for it figured out. I didn't have a character fleshed out for it, and well, like I said, the time. If these were 5-minute videos or something, I could see that. And maybe I'll do that as a short. I guess I could do that if I wanted to save. Well, we'll have to see. Maybe I'll do something with that. But we have to get the Bee. We have not got the Bee yet. I'm going to be level 13 and still no Bee. So I do apologize. I would consider it, I guess it is technically clickbait, but I'm calling the series Me and the Bee. So every episode is called Me and the Bee Play Borderlands 2. So I'm not saying that the Bee is in the game. I'm just saying that's the theme of the video, because I think for 18 to 20 episodes we are playing with the Bee.
There's no escaping, Merc.
That takes me back. There's no escaping, Merc. That was, and it used to chill your blood, because that was usually, it was said by those exact guys, the big bruisers from the first game, and usually they were formidable. I don't remember a lot of like backtracking or being over leveled. So usually if you came across a bruiser, it was bad news. A little easier now, but I'm still probably going to bleed out here unless I get really lucky. Switch to a long-range gun, trying to find a target. Obviously we see the gunfire, but badass nowhere. There's no way I'm going to get that done. So down I go. And away I go. But yeah, nobody really does this, I think, for time reasons, because most people are trying to crank out videos on the regular. I would like to, but right now they're just not worthwhile, per se. But again, for anybody who has watched this far, I appreciate your viewership and taking a gander as we get through this game. I have a knack for playing games that aren't popular, whether it's because they're old or they just never were popular, or they're too old to be relevant but not old enough to be like awesome retro. I think Borderlands 2 falls in that category. Maybe one day, in 5 years or something, this series will get an audience, because it will eventually go. It's like getting antique plates for your car. I think your car has to be 20 or 25 years old. You can put antique plates on it. So it can be 18 years old. It's a really old car, but it's not an antique yet. So I don't think I get the antique mystique for another few years. But this is an old game. I hate to think about when it actually came out. I was in Colorado, I believe. Yeah, I was definitely in Colorado. I was actually in the apartment. When I moved to Colorado, everything that I had, I fit in my car. I mean, I had more stuff than that, like there was in like my folks' attic, but like I drove out there with just what I had. It could fit in my Toyota Corolla. So not a lot of stuff. And I rented a room in a house. And the couple was nice enough, but they were relatively new parents. And their child was a little hellion. He learned very early on that if I scream and make a lot of noise, they will do whatever I want. And so he screamed a lot. And he always got what he wanted. And I ended up, my first job that I got finally, after I think I was there for a month applying for jobs, couldn't get anything. I finally got a security job, but that was a lot of overnight work. And I'm trying to sleep during the day. And it was funny. So I turned on the fan and I cranked on, I brought a DVD player and some DVDs. I actually turned on a DVD and turned up the volume so that I couldn't hear when he started screaming, because for me, steady noise, and I think for most people, steady noise, even if it's kind of loud, is better than bursts of like disruptive, like a soundtrack, a movie soundtrack, and I don't mean the music, I mean the entire audio experience of a movie, especially one that you're familiar with. That's not really distracting. It's kind of like it's not noise. Whereas a child screaming, that's noise. So I would rather have loud, enjoyable sounds than bursts of noise. But I actually got a text from the mother who said, "Hey, can you turn your TV down? It's too loud." I'm like, well, if you would tell your kid, teach your kid properly how to actually communicate. And he wasn't, it wasn't 2, he was like 3 or 4 years old. And it was like, I really wish you were better parents. But luckily I was able to move on from that relatively quick, and I went into an apartment. And I think that, no, it was not my first. I mean, I'd lived on my own before. But anyway, bottom line, that was, I want to say 2010 or 11. So I think Borderlands came out somewhere between 2009 and 2012. There we go. All of that work, all of that reminiscing to give you about a 5-year window that it could have been. You know what? Again, the power of the internet is in my grasp. I am Borderlands 2 release dates.
I didn't get half my guys killed kidnapping the most wanted criminal on Pandora just so you can ignore.
Please tell me it fell within 2012. Dang, I am good. That's what I said, didn't I? I said that would have put it around 2011, 2012. That's exactly what I said. Wow. So yeah, this game is now 12 years old. Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's a long time. Wait, no, hang on. Oh, dang. So it had, oh, wait. It was announced August 3rd, 2011. Wow. Man, games just seem to come out a lot quicker back in those days. And Borderlands was a significant, Borderlands 2 was a significant upgrade from the first one. So it wasn't like they just slapped a new coat of paint on it, you know. And I mean, no offense, I enjoyed the heck out of Tears of the Kingdom, but people calling it an expansion, essentially a grand expansion of Breath of the Wild, aren't wrong per se. But you know, so and if that's what this was, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that, you know, they could crank the wheel up pretty quick. But there's a pretty significant overhaul in a lot of different ways for this game. So I think like the Bandit AI got better. I think that was one of the first things I noticed, was they do a little more sidestepping, they're a little more agile, they're a little smarter. It sucks because it means they go for cover when you're on your second wind, which makes it much, you know, more difficult. But that's what you want from AI, or you know, from your opponents. You don't want more of them. You want the ones that are there to be smarter, so it's more satisfying when you actually. I mean, so again, it kind of undercuts my point where they're just sitting out in the middle of the open, you know, reloading their weapon, and I'm plugging them in the head. But it's still better than the first game in terms of their intelligence level. I haven't paid attention if the footfalls are different for each of the characters. Like Salvador, you know, he's short, squat, very wide, very broad. So his boots, his steps should be very heavy, very thick, very, you know, very solid. Whereas Lilith, or Maya, should be comparatively, you know, fleet of foot, almost, you know, genteel footsteps. I haven't really paid attention. And to be fair, when you've got guys screaming, I'm burning, I'll tear you in half," it's kind of hard to hear the fully effects. But I'm just curious. That's something that, you know, like if you were working on sound for the game, like you'd be very proud of. I mean, not proud of like, look what I did something crazy, but like you just like, oh, it's really cool. Like we actually recorded different sounds for the footsteps, like depending on which character you are. Like you could tell certain ones just by listening. If you know what to listen for, you could tell what character it is even if you have your eyes closed. Which is, you know, a lot of work, a lot of professionalism, but you know, your average Joe, which in this case would be me, isn't aware of it. It's kind of it's a little bit of a bummer. And even if I was, there's a lot of people, if you were to tell them, they'd be like, oh, that's kind of cool. But they wouldn't care as much as you'd want them to. But yeah, this is interesting. This level, they gave my custom-built PC a hard time back in the day, is just doing fine on a laptop. That's how far technology came. Granted, that was, well, when I played Borderlands 2, I was either on Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3. I think it was Xbox 360. I didn't get it for PC until I moved into the house, which was 2 or 3 years later. 2 years later, I think. 2014, 2015, somewhere around there. Anywho, sorry. That's the problem with it. Sometimes the conversation gets mundane. Sometimes it's a long kind of train of thought. But I don't think I've got a lot of 2-hour videos. I think I realize that it's... And it's a pain in the butt to load on YouTube as well. You know, because they have a cap on the file size. I think it's 15 gigabytes. And 2 hours at this resolution, I think, comes out at like 30, 35, maybe 40 gigabytes or more. And then you can handbrake it or compress it down to, it's probably going to still be about 9 or 10 when it's all said and done. We'll see. Check back in with me on the next video. Stay tuned. And we will see. I'll let you know what the file size was. I'm going to feel really bad if I forget that, and somebody who's actually watching this is gonna be like, dude, what the heck, man? I was tracking with you. I cared so much about this, and you failed to follow up.
Vault Hunter. Good to finally meet you in person.
He's got giant
Hell of a job
hands.
fighting through those bloodshots.
Maybe the gloves are just big.
This'll just take a second.
Pulling off the beret. It's not a raspberry beret,
Well,
but
that's that.
that'll work
Now let's
well
see
enough.
about getting out of here. Vault Hunter!
Okay, to be fair, Roland, you did say, let's see about getting out of here. You are technically out of there. You just are going the wrong way.
That's how handsome Jack pays ransoms. Long time no see, Roland.
So Roland was a success, but that's why it's always important to specify, you know, get me out of here in the direction that I want to go, or get me out of here and not be grabbed by a mechanical monstrosity.
This way.
And I guess we're just not supposed to question. I mean, come on, this is a game where toilets are just in random places with just randomly. Like we just saw a toilet. I mean, granted, it was in the prison, but you know what I'm saying. Like this game has stuff. You can't really think about it too much. But I'm like, what exactly when we're hearing people? Are we like, is the satellite comm? Because if I'm not mistaken, the first game. Oh wait, is it the first game or is it this one? I think it's the first game where the satellite goes down, so you no longer have comm link with the other Vault Hunters or something. I don't know. It's a blur. But there was something where you can lose that communication. And it just makes me wonder, it's not like he's like hitting a button to activate, be like, hey, Vault Hunter, come over here, or hey, you know, people are always speaking to the wrist. It's so funny too, because there's sometimes in shows where they don't even try to pretend like there's anything there, so it's just like, hey, come in over, and they use like a sound effect to make a beep noise, but it's like you're literally talking to your wrist. There is nothing there. It's your shirt. Oh, come on, please tell me we get this. Oh, so close, yes. Very satisfying.
You won't last 2 minutes.
Okay, was I out of bullets or I just forgot to hit the trigger? I don't know. Like I said, in theory, this is a much more focused bit of gameplay, but I'm still not that great. Logging a bunch of hours does not automatically make you great. You actually got to be pretty good at it. And with the exception of this game taking, you know, a chunk of your money when you die, it's pretty forgiving save situation. Okay, I'm not sadistic. I wasn't trying to shoot its arms off first, but that's just kind of that's do not mistake for sadism what can be described, what can be accurately attributed to poor aim. I'm gonna find a way to make that more concise. Put on a t-shirt. I remember the mood of this. It had a Terminator-esque vibe to it because you're probably not going to hear it too well just because I'm talking over it, and unless I want to crank the volume. But like between the music, which is kind of this sci-fi but kind of eerie, you know, like in Terminator 2, the music for the Liquid Terminator was kind of this. It wasn't really music per se, it just had this sci-fi kind of menace to it. That's kind of what the music has here. You combine that with like these guys yelling like, you know, don't kill me, like the bandits. I mean, they're the bad guys, but it's just the ruthlessness and the comparative power of the machines. Like, their weapons are useless against them. Like, ours aren't because we are the titular characters, but. And that's something, I don't think I'm going to talk about it in a video. Hopefully tomorrow I'm going to be doing a podcast on the myth of the strong female character. So by the time you see this, I'm probably getting ready to upload it, hopefully. And, you know, people would say like, oh, you know, Laura, is it Laura? Yeah, it's Laura. Or Lara, I'm not sure. Laura Croft is, you know, a strong female character. It's like when you're talking about video games, you're like, Laura is only as strong as you are, and it would be really ridiculous and a lot of work for the developers to have the voice actor come in and be like, okay, you know, Laura, if you press X at a certain point, Laura will just lay down on the floor, crawl in the fetal position, and be like, oh, please, make the bad guys go away. Like, there's no functional reason or rationale behind giving your avatar like overt weaknesses. Like you can have it where, okay, in this particular scene you don't have your guns, or you know, you have limited ammo. Like, the limitations are fine, but you're not going to give your character a chance to display cowardice or to or you're not going to write it in. The game is not going to enable that, because in theory you need to beat the game. Laura needs to be as capable as she is in order for you to beat the game. She has to be able to jump really high. She has to be able to land from great heights. She has to have great aim. You know, and I mean that's true for any avatar. Mario, if like Mario is not super strong, he's not amazing. He just has to be able to jump in order to facilitate the leveling that you have to do in those games. Like, I don't know if you heard that guy like over me, but he's like, help me! Killed anyone. Or he just said help. Help! But yeah, it's just the merciless. For those who are not Vault Hunters, these machines are, and they are self-destructing, a lot of them. The ones that are running at me, that kind of and they got the glowing face, those are self-destruct. Like that guy right there. If he gets to you, he's just going to blow up and take you out with him. Very, very cowardly. See, there you go. I think I thought I was out of the blast radius when I shot it, but as you can see, I was not. And being bereft of a acid weapon, I'm using shock, which at least wears down shields, but as you can see, most of them don't have shields. They are just weak to acid or corrosion. is it. Is the official name. But yeah, it's just interesting. Like as like you can argue that a video game character is wrong because of how shallow they are. Not the actual like the narrative part of the character, but like their capabilities, what they're able to do. Yes, I did just define what capability means. But it's like it's superficial. It has to be that way because they have to function as avatars. They have to get you to the end of the game. They have to be capable enough to do that. So it's not necessarily, oh, this character is awesome at doing this. It's, well, this character has to be, you know, have a very relatively easy targeting system. Otherwise, you as a player wouldn't be able to get anywhere with it. My point being, there is no such thing as a weak video game character, a weak video game avatar. So the word strong means absolutely nothing. There has to be a contrast for it to mean something. See? Please, no. Yeah, I don't know. There was a very interesting mood. I think they tried to set this mood, this like, because this is the first time you're introduced to the machines as your enemy. And I think they do a very good job of building in menace with them. Even if you're able to move through without getting blown up immediately, it's supposed to give you this very... really, it puts Handsome Jack and his forces, you know, emphasizes them as the bad guys, even as you are shooting the bandits, and as the bandits themselves are depraved and horrible things. They manage to make them sympathetic in comparison with just this cold, unfeeling opponent. Unlike the droid armies in Star Wars, which were almost exclusively comedic relief and never had any menace, and were just lightsaber and blaster fodder for the most part. These actually are... And you see, a little turd muffin's crawling at us. Look at that. Like that's very Terminator-esque. Like, you took out my legs, I'm still coming for you because I don't need my legs to satisfy my programming. The music is ramping up here, and I remember, I'm pretty sure I get rocked pretty hard by this, by the big bad in this. I think I have to fight it a few times, but that's true of several. Pretty much any time I play through this, depending on the build, I really struggle. And obviously my level, you know, depending on how much I've leveled up. Yeah, so there you go. There's a little taste of the podcast. I'm not going to say too much more about it, but I was going to bring that point up because I think that would be an argument that's something people would say. Well, you know, Lara Croft is a strong female character. There's several other games that have come out that have had what ostensibly you might call that, but again, it's not really an option. You can't have and I mean that's kind of ties into the argument that I make for movies and media as well. Your protagonist can't, by definition, really can't be. There is such a thing as a weak character, but they have to be written that way, and that's usually your villains or your secondary, third, you know, or tertiary characters that would be weak, and they're written specifically to be weak. That's a decision. Because by default, a protagonist is going to grow, is going to develop, is going to change, is going to be capable of getting to their objective, to the end of the film, unless it's a tragedy. But even then, it's not necessarily because they were weak. It could just be how things turned out. But in general, your protagonists have to have what it takes to get to the end, and so they can't be weak. They can be poorly written. I'm not going to go into that too much. Oh, snuck up on me, did you, little turd muffin? But yeah, strong is a big nothing as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't say anything about the character, and so... Anyway, I mean, you could argue, oh, the Gunzerker or Salvador, he's a strong character, and strong male character, because he blows stuff up and he advances the plot. No, that's a protagonist. That's his job. If he's not able to do that, He doesn't work as a video game avatar or as a character. Yeah, and thanks to me, it's definitely rough. But he's so happy. See, this is where Maya's ability comes in really handy. Those little turds are very... I mean, if you got a shotgun and they're hanging around right in front of you, you're good to go. But a lot of times those little things are just very evasive, and they're just hitting you with shock damage. Or electric damage. I don't know which one, what it's called actually officially. But do I do it here? I was going to say the best way to do it, the best way to get them is to shoot them while they're healing something else, because they're not moving. But I did not display that bit of wisdom. And there as well, I didn't jump back. It's just, I get very bullheaded sometimes. I just assume that I'm going to get through the level because I've done it a million times, so I don't really try all that hard, and I pay the price. This is interesting too. Like, we're an hour and a half in, and I haven't had the noise distort yet, but I have had problems. Anybody who's listening this far, if you have OBS and you use the application audio beta, a lot of times I find that it craps out the audio pretty bad. In fact, there is one episode where it does do that, if I recall. I actually note that there's a place where the audio goes bad. But it's random. Sometimes it does it at the hour mark or right around there, and sometimes, as in the case here, it just never seems to happen. It's always good. I'm curious to see where the ending point is for this, where I decided to stop, because I don't think I'm that bad at this boss fight that it takes 30 minutes to get through it. But it is the most natural stopping place. So maybe I think maybe I run around Sanctuary a little bit, because it unlocks, you know, we go visit Moxie and take a hand at some other things. All that speaking about voice acting, I think all the voice acting in Borderlands 2 is very good. And the first Borderlands actually was also very good. But I'd be curious if like anybody has a suggestion out there of when voice acting isn't good. I will say I find it very hard to watch animation dubs, except for Dragon Ball Z for some reason, and maybe it's because I started watching the English version. But to me, the voice acting is so distinct, even though, you know, as is the custom, you have a lot of doubling up, tripling up of roles. Like, I know the guy who does, is his name Shamil? I can't remember his name now. The guy who does Goku also does like King Kai, and I think Yamcha, and like 2 other characters. And that's pretty common. They've been doing that like at least since the 80s. But even then, they're distinct enough where when I watch the Japanese versions, like they all kind of, not all of them, but they all kind of sound similar. So just they seem more colorful, and I like Bruce Falconer. I don't know how to say his name, but I like his soundtrack. I think he has some bangers, as they say. And whereas the original Dragon Ball Z sound sounds very like 80s, 70s, like symphonic type. I don't know a way to describe it. It's like classical music, but I don't know. I just doesn't do it for me. But every other anime that I watch, I can't stand the dubs. And I'm not saying it's the voice actor's fault, but I think part of it is, it's not even the translation's fault. It's just that they're the difference in the language. And I've marveled at this, because I do watch a lot of Korean dramas, and I marvel at the fact that I think the translation is faithful. But if we were to say that, if the character were to say that out loud, or if you were to dub that in English, exactly what the translation is, it would sound weird as heck. And this actually plays out because there are times where, in some of the dramas, they'll actually have American or English-speaking actors, and they give them lines that are obviously translated from Korean, and they just sound so stilted and awkward because we don't talk like that. We don't articulate our thoughts as directly, I think, as the translation is. So for me, it couples. It's like, okay, the translation gives me a good idea of what that character is feeling, and it's usually a lot more expressive and specific than what we use in English. But it's like I take the idea of what they're saying and pair it with the sound of the language, and it works, and it sounds right. It sounds good. But if I were to pause it and then just listen to and to read that read those lines in English, it'd be like, what in the world what am I listening to? And so I think that's, and you have the added complication with anime of having them somewhat match the lips that are animated for the Japanese words. And so I mean, it's surprising how well they're able to do that, convey the meaning and make it kind of look like that's what the language the characters were originally speaking in. But even still, there's a lot lost in translation, I think, and it makes it very difficult for me to enjoy. I'd rather go through the effort of reading it as it's intended, getting the meaning from it, and processing it the way I need to with the sound of their language. Like I said, a lot of times it's more expressive. I'm trying to think of an example. You know, maybe say, I'm so sad, I don't think I can deal with this situation, or this grieves me so much that I can't even speak, or that I'm at a loss for words. Whereas we might say, I'm pissed off. You know, 3 words, I'm pissed off. That's it. That's all you need to know. But in Korean, like the Korean version of that would be, I'm so angry I can't even speak, or I'm so angry I can't think of the words. But it's more expressive. It's not just saying like I'm angry. It's a specific kind of anger, it's a specific kind of hurt, and it's affecting their ability to speak. Like, whereas you say pissed off, you can be pissed off and yell in a blue streak. Just being pissed off, there are different kinds of it, and you can. But I've experienced that. I've been so angry, I'm like, I can't even express how angry I am right now. There's no way for me to articulate this, or to articulate how stupid what you just said is. Not you personally. I'm sorry. I don't mean to attack you. I'm just saying.
I want to take him somewhere quiet to torture him. I just gotta figure out where. Good kill.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. I was so bad. Usually, if you kill this thing in a decent amount of time, it ends there. You get with Roland, and you go right back to Sanctuary. When you do it like I did, the game is kind of generous, and it's like, all right, you took a lot longer to do this than you should have. We're taking Roland to a detention facility, so you have to go there and essentially do relatively the same fight in a different setting. And there you just have to get it done, because here you can't go back. You can't fast travel anywhere. You have to get it done in here, or it doesn't work. Whereas, you know, you can stock up on ammo, you can level up, and I may even do that. I don't know. And I think this was the first time me actually going down there. That's why I was like, "Huh, that's what's going on." Nothing there. Okay. You know, now that I think of it, maybe I could have hidden in there during the fight. I don't know if that's unlocked at the time, but maybe that's one of the ways you get it done. You just hide down there and pop your head out, jump back down. Anyway, we didn't do that. True story. So here we go. We're going to fast travel, and we are going to have to. That's okay. So that's probably why the runtime. I totally forgot that I was doing this. So yeah, we go to the dust. I'm going to go to Sanctuary first, apparently. Maybe spend some Iridium. Trying to think why I'm back here. Or yeah, I was going to say maybe the golden key. Oh, yep, doing my Iridium. I don't even have that much. What was I thinking? It's not like a game changer. I can level up 1 or 2 things. All I'm doing here, for those who don't know, I'm just increasing my the overall ammo capacity, not the clip capacity, but the ammo capacity of each weapon. So you can see for like the the sniper rifle, I have 60 shots. That's the most I can carry at any point. The number in the clip still depends on the gun specifically, but or you can get a class mod that will add 1 or 2 bullets to your magazine, or well, I think it adds one or two when it comes to like sniper rifles and pistols, but I think it adds you know, a significantly higher number for submachine guns and assault rifles. The denizens of Sanctuary aren't particularly stellar. I will say that. I don't feel all that obliged to save their lives. They're not terribly friendly or personable. I can't blame them. Pandora is a crappy place to live. I don't expect them to be the greatest of folks, but they don't go out of their way to ingratiate themselves. And the writers really don't do a lot to flesh them out. I mean, the game is so full of stuff that you can't really be too resentful of the lack of NPC depth. But I mean, and you could say that for even games like Zelda. You know, there are certain characters that have a good amount of effort put into them, but for the most part, you're just they're just saying the typical stuff. Oh, hey, I have wares. If you have coin, or I have. Don't get killed. Yeah, there you go, Marcus. Little things like that. And see, we even see the industrialization of the game. You've got you've got vending machines for guns and ammo and stuff. I mean, I think you can still buy it from Marcus directly. I think. No, I don't. Maybe you can't. Okay, so I'm doing a little bit of both. Spending some golden keys, trying to pick up some better weapons. The good thing with the golden keys, they do give you an epic purple weapon at the level you're at. So it's a nice way to guarantee, or a shield. Blastproof turtle shield. I don't like turtle shields because that just looks great. Anytime you see a bunch of green arrows, that's great stuff. But yeah, the turtle shield, I think it gives you higher shields at the cost of health, which I'm not a fan of. I mean, I appreciate the dynamic because there are some characters that you want the shield to deplete quick and lose health because their powers are activated when that happens. I think it's Craig does that. But yeah, I've spent so much time unlocking golden keys, or well, that sounds ironic or backwards. Coding, putting in codes to get golden keys. Because I think I mentioned this before. I've played this Xbox 360, PlayStation 3. I haven't played it for the Switch, but I do have it for the Switch. Then I had it for the Xbox One, Steam. Yeah, so like 5 different systems, I think. And I've beat it several times on each one. But I've also put in codes to get to get golden keys for each one as well. Man, this is a lot harder than I thought. I don't know if this process is going to work out for future stuff. I still have Mario RPG to get through, where I did it like this. But I'm guessing, the tried and true method. There's a reason why all the streamers, well, not streamers, obviously that's live, but most of the video playthroughs that you see are not. They don't split it up like I did. Because it can be harder to engage with the material and really track what's going on when you do it this way. But I think I've stayed on topic fairly well. Quiet you. Bathroom break? Nope. Okay. I do like how the class mods and shields and everything do show up on your character. I mean, I know that's a small thing. I think most games do that now where, I mean, even well, Diablo 2 even did that when you'd get even your little itty bitty little character that you run around with, a lot of the helmets and armor and stuff that you'd pick up, it would actually change your physical appearance. So I guess that's really nothing new, but it's just kind of cool to see. Okay, that's how the shield works. Like, it doesn't create like a bubble around you or anything. It's just kind of there, and I guess it's like a second skin, generates like a second skin or something for you. I don't know. But this would explain why I am a little more successful in my second attempt of taking the big old, I can't remember what those are called. The giant robot with a big eye. Oh, excuse me. It's also, I made the mistake, I get lulled. If it's been a pretty chill afternoon, I'm kind of loving life. I'm like, I got a little gas in the tank here. It's 5 o'clock. I'll go ahead and jump on this. And it's like, okay, we're getting up on 8 o'clock at night. As a morning person, I peak probably close between 10 and 1 o'clock. And I hit a wall around 2:30. I can push forward to about 3:30. And after that, you're getting crap, more or less. Unless it's, something when I was doing like the grip and electric work where you work in spurts. You do something, but even then, it doesn't really require a lot of mental focus. I mean, obviously you got to be aware of what you're doing so you don't hurt yourself. But it's not. It's more about staying awake than it is. Finishing your thoughts. Speaking in complete sense, are we really we're still under 10,000? You get to a point in the game where you got so many weapons you're just getting rid of, and they cost so much. You're in the millions. Oh, does it cap out? I think it caps at 9,999,999. I think it does cap at that. So you can only go so high. All right, so I do apologize for this, and I guess this is where, in theory, if I was on my A game right now and I was engrossing you with my wit and my banter, this kind of lull in the action would not be so bad. But unfortunately, because I am also at a bit of a lull, works to both worlds. We're just going to ignore Ellie. I don't even mind the name. But just not a huge fan of the character. I've said that like 5 times now. I think it's important that you know. There will be a test. What is the one character that I'm just not a huge fan of? It's Ellie. There you go. Said it again. Don't worry, folks. We're in the final stretch here. We are coming up on 1 hour and 48 minutes in. And that is one other benefit too. Like if you're playing it, even if you sat down and go, okay, I'm only going to play for an hour. Sometimes you just don't know exactly where you're going to end or how it's going to end. Here, I kind of know with the same. I'm aware as you are as the audience what the runtime is. You can look down at the little red bar there and say, okay, I've got another 10 minutes left. I can do the same. It's a blue bar, but. Wow, am I really that mundane? We've gotten down to that level of mundanity where I'm actually talking about the color of the timeline bar. All right, here we go. In the Gulag, Friendship Gulag. And it's playing the Dust music here as well. The music isn't bad per se, but it really does tie into that I don't know, just that very... I really don't know how to describe it. It's not... I don't know, screw it. Actually, you know what? With the lighting you got back there, the kind of the color of the sky where it's kind of this almost like twilight look, it actually matches the music really well. What am I doing? It's almost like I knew I was going to be talking about the sky. See, I mean, it's got that nice, this is like golden hour. That magical 1 hour before the sunset where everything has this golden look to it. The lighting is like amazing. Which I was really impressed. One of the K-dramas I watched, like, they had an entire scene took place during golden hour, and as best as I can tell, they got it all done in one golden hour. Like, it was done at one time, like the clothes, the hair, the location, everything looked identical, which is something I think would be very difficult to do if you had to do it on multiple days. Usually there's something a little bit different. I mean, you're going to keep the same hairstyle, but sometimes there's like a stray strand or something. You can tell. Or if it's a windy day, good luck, because every take, you got somebody doing the hair trying to get it down, and sometimes they do it and then they say action and the hair blows a little bit and it's different again. Anyway, like you can tell when they cut from angle to angle. A lot of times you can see it becomes obvious that they weren't using 2 cameras because it was shot at a different time. But yeah, in this one particular case, in the Korean drama, it looked like they managed to get at least 3 angles, and maybe even a moving, like a cherry picking shot or something, all within that golden hour. So either they were just operating at crazy maximum efficiency, and they just had it, all their setups nailed down, which would make sense if you're going, look, we want to get this golden hour done. We need to put in the time to plan for it. Or we need to plan it down to a T just to make sure we get everything. Because you really don't want to have to go back if you can help it. But it's always appreciated. The production value looks good. It pays off. You can shoot during golden hour. I mean, as long as it matches the tone of what you're trying to do. It's a pretty darn effective situation there. You don't have to bring a lot of lights. In fact, I don't even know. I think it'd be not sacrilegious, but it'd almost be counterproductive to bring lights, because then you're diluting the effect. So here we go. I mean, you can see this thing it's formidable. I mean, I don't fault myself for dying. But Warden, that's what it's called, but it's spelled W4RD3L. Clever, you see. Warden. Angel is 4 and 6, 3, 1. I think. Yeah, so I think that's one of the guns I picked up. I'll be honest, folks, I wasn't paying attention to what the guns I was getting, but I got a corrosive weapon that I didn't have before, and I think that's what makes the difference here. Oh. And apparently I did it. Corrosion did its thing. That's the great thing with corrosion / acid and fire, is they have lingering effects, so you may not kill it immediately, but you run around and you find out it just got corroded. Like what's happening to our badass loader there. All those numbers continue to eat away at its health long after I'm done shooting it. I might have been able to get the second win from that as well. I was able to take one down with the pistol, but I think we had just enough time left that even if I hadn't been able to do that, I think we would have survived. But the Warden is down. I think maybe it was just a matter of, in other playthroughs, I had at least a corrosive weapon of some kind. It makes a difference. It's got a little bit of that Mega Man vibe to it, where very, very simplistic, but certain enemies are weak to certain attacks. And if you don't have those certain weapons, it gets a lot harder. And that's a well-designed game. Mega Man, you can beat the entire game without using any of the robot. Well, no. You can beat all 6 in the first game. You can beat all the robot masters without finding the corresponding weakness. But I'm pretty sure most of the games, the last boss, or some of the last bosses, require you to have it, which you're gonna have anyway. It's not like you can't beat a robot master and not get its weapon, so you're fortified there. And now we're back to the dust, and now it's dusk in the dust. Oh, that's what I was doing. I was like, why am I standing there? Okay, I'm getting rid of that thing. Because it was just going to, as I'm sitting there talking with Roland, it's going to just continuously shoot me with nonsense.
You saved Roland. for a hero like you. Thank goodness Jack didn't send Wilhelm.
Foreshadowing. Name dropping. Apparently Wilhelm is someone to be feared. I'm trying to remember if I thought that payoff was justified or justified the amount of. I think it could be. It's another one like Warden. If you have the right weapon, if you have the right skill stuff, if if you're set up the right way, Wilhelm is kind of a nothing. But I think I remember at least 1 or 2 playthroughs where I was like, oh my gosh, he's a monster. But I think the first time I played through, I think I took him out pretty easy. I was like, kind of thought Wilhelm would be a little bit formidable because they mentioned him several times. She's like, oh, please tell me they didn't send Wilhelm. Oh, thank God they didn't send Wilhelm. Oh no, it's Wilhelm. And then I'm like, cool. It's like, oh, you killed Wilhelm. Yeah. And maybe I'm just that good. I think that's the other option. I'm just that good. I was thinking I'm going to be able to get this edited tonight, and then I remembered the longest transfer time comes from getting the footage from the camera onto the computer. Yep. That's probably, for a 2-hour deal, this is probably going to take 2 hours, hour and a half maybe. It's very slow transfer speed, unfortunately. So, yeah, I'll probably have to do this tomorrow. Anyway, sorry, thinking out loud again. I'm really not sure. I mean, they are pretty good in this game where there's not a lot of downtime. So, you can clear out everything on your way in, but then on your way out, there's still going to be a bunch of stuff to shoot. And I think that's just what I'm doing. I'm just continuing to clean house as I leave. And if you're getting 100 XP points or over, you could argue that it's worthwhile. Anything less than that, it's like, my time is probably better used elsewhere. Yeah, no, I definitely think that music works great at Twilight. Not great at night. Which is weird to say. I don't know that I've ever thought of music like that before being limited to certain. I think it's just that it seems to match whatever mood I'm feeling, whatever vibe I'm getting from this music, it matches the visuals when it's at twilight or sunset, but not so much at nighttime or during the day. There you go. That said, I think there are a few tracks from Captain Scarlet Enterprise Booty. Obviously not this one, but there are some of the overworld and battles, I think, that really do a good job. They are repetitive, they don't go very long, but most video game music is kind of loopy. I mean, was it Skyrim? I got the vinyl for that. I mean, because there are just so many songs you're listening to, like, this sounds like a movie score. It really does a great job of not being video game music. It doesn't loop all that often. It sounds like a full song. I mean, it may loop, but it's like 3.5 minutes in, and it's an actual, like, legitimate song. I'm thinking mostly of like when you go into the inns and they're playing that dun 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 dun. No, that's a different song. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, that's not it. But you know what I'm saying. I'm sure you're familiar. I take it that anybody who's watching me play Borderlands 2 has definitely played Skyrim a lot, enough to know the musical score. That's always fun in the comments. Baldric stir up in I think was the first one mentioning, yeah, I hate zombies too, and brought up a good point with, what was it, body snatching type stuff, like alien body snatchers or whatever. And I said in there, I am convinced that was purely for budgetary reasons. Like, they were like, okay, we need to come up with a villain that is like super cool or in theory very cool, but looks just like a normal human being. with maybe some contact lenses or something. It's like, oh yeah, we'll just have it body snatching where they take over the body, and it's like, oh, and then you can just have a human being, no visual effects or makeup needed, and you have a villain, and it's formidable. It's very smart. It's very creative. Limitations are what I think breed creativity, but it also takes a lot of the menace out. It's like it was the same thing, you know, watching Terminator. Like I found myself being more drawn in and more terrified of the villain. The more the exoskeleton was exposed, the more you saw the red eye and all that kind of stuff. That's when I started, you know, really feeling like, oh gosh, you can feel a menace. But even though back, you know, at that point it's mostly prosthetics, you know, like basic makeup stuff, you know, in his face and his shoulder and stuff. But yeah, the more you saw of it, until you saw the full body, and then you realized this is very limited in its movement. It's very puppety.
As amusing as it might be to see them attempt to reintegrate into society, they must be put down. You will need a way to lure them out. Head to Moxie's and acquire some.
Okay, so I think we might kick off the next video. That is that she's giving us the quest for the the equivalent of the Ninja Turtle
Taking a leak.
quest line.
Knocked me out.
Oh, here we go. We'll listen on this
you are a
conversation. Here.
dumbass.
Yeah, yeah.
So I...
Handsome Jack is gonna kill us all unless you can stop him.
He means hi. That's his way of saying hi.
Oh, you guys.
Sorry. Hi. Look, I'll be honest, soldier. We're losing this war.
Hmm.
We've been trying to stop Jack for years, taking out his men, raiding his iridium mines, but it hasn't been enough. But you met Jack and lived. You
Yep.
fought off the Rippers and the Bloodshots. Saved my ass and Lilith's.
Thanks, by the way.
I'm
If
special.
we're gonna survive this, we need your help, Vault Hunter. Now, we thought Jack wanted to open a vault and use its power to wipe us off Pandora. But, thanks to some intel I stole from a Hyperion convoy, I found out we were wrong.
What?
I mean,
He's not gonna open a vault. He's going to control it.
Lilith has a bit of a peculiar profile shot.
The vault
Like,
Jack's
it doesn't look like it matches her. I mean, obviously, it's a 3D model, so it does work. But it's weird. Like, you see, it doesn't. I don't know. Like the way her face looks from the front and then the side, I wouldn't think it's the same person if it wasn't the same hair. Yeah, it's just weird. Like they round out her jaw a little bit more than you think it would be based on
Use it to wipe
the front
Hyperion off
shot.
the map. All right, I'm liking this plan.
There's a problem. We need
So,
the vault
yeah,
to
she
get
looks
away
very
from Warrior,
different
and
there to
Jack's
me.
already got it. But if you've spoken to Tennis,
She didn't vomit when she saw you, did she? She does that sometimes.
she
But
might have told
that's
you the key needs to be
you can't
charged.
argue with a 3D model.
Racing
It
against time. Every ounce of that stuff that
it
Jack mines
corresponds.
is
It correlates. It's not like
taking control
a
of
hand drawing where you're going, oh, like sometimes you look at like some of the older Disney stuff,
Now,
and
anybody
you
knows
like you
that
can tell, oh, the animator here wasn't, or the guy drawing wasn't quite as good. Like some of the, you know, the eye is a little bit
he is at drinking.
weird looking or exaggerated or what have you. But
You'll need to get a fire weapon to wake him up. I'll explain when you get
like every frame is not guaranteed to be an accurate representation of the character. It's got to be close enough, but it's not guaranteed to be like canon character because it's being hand drawn. It doesn't guarantee that it correlates. Whereas when you have a 3D model, it's for all intents and purposes a real thing. It would be like me going, oh well, my profile doesn't match my face. Well, it has to. It's who I am. But anyway, that'll do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.